if you haven't joined us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and then a thumbs up and hit the bell. It'll ding, and that way you'll be notified of new content whenever I post it there to the Active Trend Traders Market Tech Talk. Good afternoon. I want to welcome everybody to On the Radar, the live market update that I do every day. Are you struggling with the aspect of what's going on in the market? In other words, we get a big move up and then a move back down. Well, it's the kind of market we're in. So patient, and I have a couple of tips today on how to handle situations like this, because it's one of those where we don't really want to be. We want to be very careful as we're walking through the market, so that we do get too badly whipsawed. And then if you are challenged with that area and are really busy where you cannot monitor the market, and or you are unable to do the kind of conditional orders where you're protecting yourself, it's okay to move to cash. It's okay to move to cash, and one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, that cash is a position also. So again, welcome to On the Radar. Let's jump into today's session. First chart I have up here is the chart of the SPY, which is reflective of the S&P. And if you're joining, hey, Rick, how you doing? Glad to see you're with us. What I'm looking at on the SPY, basically we talked about this yesterday, that yesterday's candlestick was kind of, it is a hammer after a one-day downtrend. So it's not as effective and or as strong as a hammer after several days downtrend. The other thing that is happening on the charts, and with a weak market, the market is, the market is acting the way a market does when it is weak. And how is that? It will rally in the morning, oftentimes first thing. It'll run up several points and then start pulling back down. What is going on? One is momentum is still shifted to the downside. So there's little, if any, upside momentum currently in the market. Now, this is on a daily chart. What about the weekly chart? What about the momentum on that? And I'll come back here to the S&P here shortly, as it flips over to the weekly chart. And what we'll see there is, you see momentum. It is in the upper reversal zone. And what's it doing? It's starting to turn over. Do we have you have to remember that when you look at time frames, the weeklies, things happen more slowly than the dailies, and the dailies more slowly than on the intradays. But today is Wednesday. If price action stopped right where it was, this was Friday, and price action stopped right where it is right now, what we would see is we'd have a bearish engulfing pattern, even though it's a small one, on the S&P, with a TSI that's starting to cross down. Now, what we're going to do is go and see what happened the last time the TSI crossed down. We went into basically about 4-week pullback into this middle line here is the 20-week moving average, which equates approximately to the 100-day moving average, and then the 40 down here on the bottom, 40-week moving average equates approximately to the 200. And so as you can see, the uptrend is still intact. To get rid of the froth in the market, we need a slight pullback. Another thing that's quite interesting about the price action that we're seeing right now is it is, at least on a weekly basis, fairly tight, fairly uniform. So those are all positive things. And price action, as you can see, we can basically just draw let me grab a parallel tool here. I'm going to grab this. across to here. Grab it. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a parallel range here. And I can stretch it out above here. So grab this. So basically, I'm just going to put this little box around there. We've got things working into a range, and it's moving sideways. So we have a sideways range. One of the things to keep in mind, though, what is also happening is this is looking a lot like the potential of being a head and shoulders type pattern. We've got the left shoulder, we've got the head. We'll see what happens. Is this going to be a right shoulder? And from a purely technical standpoint, the right shoulders are typically a little bit lower than the previous shoulder. And so we'll watch this. Price action today has started to turn back down. It did not engulf yesterday's body, but still, where did it go? It went up, came back down below the 8-day moving average, and we're proceeding to move down. Excuse me. That's what I've got going on with the SPY. And it was up 13 cents. NASDAQ, very interesting. NASDAQ is also, just take a look. What's going on with the moving averages? Well, the moving averages are starting to roll over. The 8-day is rapidly approaching the 20. Looks like they're going to cross. Price action is faltering at the 50-day moving average. We slip back into the magic fib box where we where we can expect strong support. Will we get a bounce back up? We'll see. Again, as I said yesterday, yesterday's candle was not a reversal candle. Even though the buyers came in way down here and pushed it back up, that was not a reversal candle. It was just telling us that there is a supply of buyers that are down here that want to get into this entity. Of concern, though, is the PSI, the momentum. Which way is it going? It's shifting down. One of the things you can do is, if we're looking for a long trade and being able to be patient with it, is draw a trend line across your TSI. And as long as that trend line is intact, we'll be very cautious on trying to enter any kind of a long position in the Qs. As long as that's intact. One thing I like about using the TSI, because the TSI allows us to actually draw patterns on it, and it acts much like price action, and the trend lines we use on price action to determine where we're going, what's happening, where momentum is shifting to. So, excuse me a second. So let's see, what else do we have going on here? We have the IWM. Switching over to IWM, but I want to just remind you, if you are joining us on Instagram, thank you very much. If you do have any questions about any stocks that we may be looking at, or you have a stock you want us to take a look at, if my phone will keep up, I'll be able to just type it into the comments section, and I'll take a look at that entity prior to us being done for the day. So. Yeah. Okay. IWM. Again, IWM. What's happening with the moving averages? Well, price action is hammering down. It's the jackhammer effect. It has rolled over the 8. It has rolled over the 20. It's rolled over the 34. And the only dynamic support is being provided by the 50-day moving average. Now, there is an uptrending line there that we have not gotten to yet. And there's a support level that was at the middle of this large green candle that we haven't gotten to yet either. I would, as a suggestion, I would put an alert in right about the 220 level. And then once that was hit, I would come in and look at my charts to say, okay, which way are we going? We're either going to break down and continue to fall, or we may bounce and move back up. We are still operating short term, at least, on a trigger where we came down, hit a higher low than this one over here, came back up, hit a higher high than this one over here, and now we are going back and flirting with the potential of a new higher low. That's kind of interesting. In the time frame we're looking at, yeah, it looks pretty good. What? Flip over to the right now on the weekly chart, we're looking if we were closed today, we'd have a bearish engulfing of last week's candlestick. Although it is not completing an uptrend of sorts, it's a weak uptrend, but still that is a selling signal. TSI longer term is pointing down. If we break that trend line there and the support at about the 220 area, I would look for an acceleration of momentum to the downside. That's our clue that we may want to be looking at potential trades to the downside on the Qs. Qs tends to be the weakest of the entities during this time of year, but acceleration of the TSI momentum falling, it would steepen its fall. And, the slope of it would show the acceleration pushing it down faster. Not familiar with those terms is when you get a nice gradual sell-off here on the momentum while price action is just going sideways. In a way, that's a positive thing. However, if we get a sell-off and then this curve, the trajectory of the TSI strengthens to the downside or steepens to the downside, that means we're probably going to fall much further than what we had originally anticipated. So that's what I've got for IWM. As we move over into the, you may have seen the earlier video that I put out, or just the encouragement video to come on over and take a look at on the radar, and I was utilizing at Marathon. Marathon had made a nice move yesterday and made a nice move earlier today. However, again, this is another thing that brings us into the market's not as strong as we think it is Marathon. What did Marathon wind up doing? As you can see, Marathon had almost a 10% run the day earlier. Now, there was an entry that we got into yesterday here, down here in the anywhere from the 350 up to the 3450 level, 3350 to 3450 level, depending on if you were watching the trade where you could adjust your orders. And so today we pushed that up very nicely. And however, in today, what happened? Weakness came in and pushed it back down. No bueno, no good. You see that on this is a 15-minute intraday chart, and this is almost a round trip actually. So here's where today started. In fact, it is a round trip. Where today started, came down here, flashed down, then ran up all the way. So we started at about 33 bucks, ran up to a little bit over 36, and then we sold off. That is not the sign of a healthy market. Now, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Marathon. It's just that's the way it goes. Now, we do realize that Marathon, we realize that Riot are all very volatile crypto type stocks, and so that could have something to do with it. It's going to respond faster and quicker than a lot of the other entities that we are taking a look at. So with that being said, let's stay right here for a second on the intraday chart because we have a couple of stocks. Let me get here we go. Several stocks are reporting today that have the potential of moving the market tomorrow. We want to take a look at those and see how they're doing right now. And so, just leave it at 50 point. And so what are those stocks? Well, one is One is Etsy. What's happening with Etsy? Etsy's selling off after hours. Pretty nice sell-off too. Down to 171. That is going to be right almost exactly on top of the 200-day moving average. So, and a couple of points. If you're watching this either on YouTube and or you're watching it live, and because I have to condense the window down so much, just be aware that go back and look at these same entities, but look at them on a larger time frame. In other words, give yourself the opportunity to take a look at a larger picture of these. Like go to the daily, go to the weekly, to give you the view of what's going on from the 10,000 foot area. Again, because I have to squeeze them down into such a small area to do this type of video. This can give you a piece of the immediate type picture, but not the full enchilada. So Etsy, not so good. What about PayPal? PayPal, just on the other side of that. Now PayPal, it looks like it's going to be pushing back up through about 259 or so. Just remember, PayPal has got to get back above, about above the 275 level. That's where its next level of strong resistance is. If it doesn't get up there, I would anticipate maybe a big surge up in the morning of PayPal and then a retreat down from there. Another stock that we've been following quite closely is INMD. It also reports after hours today. Hasn't done a lot whatsoever. Okay. What do we have coming up tomorrow? Well, what do we have coming up tomorrow is Riot reports aftermarket 5-6. So just be aware of that. It also did a big move up, big move down today, as did Marathon. And the other one we have coming up tomorrow, which may be, we have to say, it is showing a sympathy move with PayPal right now, and that's Square. See, Square heading up with PayPal. At the same time, remember, it has a level of resistance that right up at the 240 level, and another one up at the $260 level. And so we need to break through those in order to be back onto a strong uptrend. So that's what I've got for today. Let me go ahead and go back to the daily chart. You can see got resistance right there at the 50% retracement. Isn't it interesting? It came down, did a really good job of testing the 618. Now it's bouncing back up after hours. And we'll see if it has got to take out that area, because there's a gap right there, right at the 50-day moving average, right at the 50% retracement, which makes that a confluence of clues, making that a very strong level of resistance. So that's what I've got going today, folks. I'll be watching the markets. The markets, as I said, are very, very suspect. Like they may want to continue to fall a little bit, and we'll just pay attention. And here's one of the clues you can use in looking for is whether it's a bullish or a bearish market. Typically in a bearish market, I'm not calling it a bear market, but in a weak market, what you'll do is you'll get an early morning rally, but then a sell-off later in the to go down to newer lows. On the opposite side of that is if you're in a strong bull market, oftentimes you'll get a sell-off from the night before, and then you get a rebound. And it's just it's the and what's happening is some of the shorter term traders are taking their profits on the bull market first thing in the morning and jumping out, and then in the case of the bearish sentiment, there's a lot of the amateur hour during the first hour of the day. A lot of people are buying what they think is a dip, and then as soon as it hits its targeted upside, the more professional or more experienced traders are coming in and taking that profit off the table, thus leaving the amateurs holding the bag, unfortunately. Okay, I want to say thank you for joining today. And again, if you have any stock you want me to take a look at, please leave it in the comments and or drop me a comment on YouTube. I'll be glad to. I check those every day. So with no further ado, I'll say aloha, good evening, no matter where you are. God bless everybody.